Good afternoon and welcome back to Tungsten Tales. Day 2 of Q School is done and dusted, a little bit earlier than yesterday, but we have 4 names from the European Q School in Niederhausen and 4 names from the UK Q School in Milton Keynes. Yesterday we saw some outsiders really make it through, some names you may never have heard of, but also some names that you would have heard of, the likes of Richard Veenstra was in the the European mix, should I say. And today we've got some great names to have a little look at now. We'll start off with the UK names. They kicked off at around midday rather than 2 PM today in Milton Keynes in the MK Arena. And early on there were great signs for some of the big names, the likes of Kevin Painter, Fallon Sherrock, who we'll have a quick look at later, along with Wayne Warren, who's still currently the reigning BDO world champion, even Cameron Menzies, all making it to the last 32. Daryl Fitton losing out to Kevin Painter in that round. But lots of the big names seem to be going strong on day 2 of Q School, and that's where it changed. Lots of them went out at that stage, and we've ended up with these 4 players. So Sam Booth, Ian McKenzie, Mike Warburton and Jason Hogg. Some names that you may recognise, some names that you may not recognise. We'll kick off with Mike Warburton, a player that's competed on the BDO circuit and on some of the TV events as well, it must be said. He had a pretty good day. I mean, you look at those averages, there's nothing special that makes you go wow in there until the final with a 93.5 against Sam Kankert. I mean, convincing display, was never pushed apart from his top 16 game, but beat some good players in there, and he was actually 4-0 down to John Scott and reeled off 6 consecutive legs, 3 15 darters and 3 14 darters. So a huge win there for Mike Warburton as he goes through into stage 2. We've also got Sam Booth, very impressive yesterday, made I believe the last 16, could be wrong there, but 6-5 win over Aaron Monk, who's a former tour card holder, and he is through into stage 2 with an 88.6 average in that final game. We've got Ian McKenzie with a 92 over Brett Claydon. If we have a quick look at Ian McKenzie's stats, I mean, there's nobody huge in that array of names. Brett Claydon we've seen on the Pro Tour before, we've seen him on the European Tour. A former Challenge Tour winner, I believe, at one point. But Fallon Sherrock is the standout name there, just a 76.4 average for Fallon in that game. But Ian McKenzie getting the job done with a mid-80s average. We will have a quick look at Fallon Sherrock's day before we leave you. And the final name, Jason Hogg. We've seen him as a UK qualifier, Riley's qualifier in the UK Open before. A very, very capable player, and he is through into stage 2. So as promised, have a quick look at Fallon Sherrock's day. She had a poor day yesterday, went out in round 2, but round 4 today, the last 32, got a horrific draw in first round in Reese Hayden, a very, very capable player. But she defeated him 6-1 with a 92.3. On to Daniel Day, another player we've seen in the BDO World Championships a couple of times, an England international as well. She defeated him 6-4. Roger Crook was, well, whitewashed in the 3rd round in the top 64 with another 90 plus average for Fallon Sherrock. And then in the top 32 she was defeated by Ian McKenzie, who of course would later go on to claim his spot in the 2nd stage of Q School. But an improved day for Fallon Sherrock. Looking at, there's no order of merit available obviously, but she is going to need another decent run tomorrow. I mean, you'd like to think probably a 32 would sneak her in by the order of merit, but it's the luck of the draw, and if she's dealt another tough hand with the likes of Reese Hayden and Daniel Day, then she may well struggle. On to the European Q School for day 2 in Niederhausen, and some very, very well-known names in this one. We'll go on to the most well-known in a little bit, but it's the 4 names that are through: Lucas Weinig, Davey Preston, Boris Koltsov and Michael Rastovitz. Michael Rastovitz in particular has been excellent at Q School last year. He was very unlucky not to get a card. He defeated Raymond Van Barneveld in his final game. But Lucas Weinig is the player we'll have a quick look at first, a player that I tipped before the tournament started, and he had a superb day. I mean, was lucky in that first game. I watched that first game against Leo Hendricks, and he did get away with that a little bit, but looking a little bit further up, a 97 against Wesley Plazier, and then against Van Engelen, sorry if I butchered that one, a 98 average. That's more than enough to get you over the line in Q-School, and he goes into stage 2. And with some of the form we've seen him produce on the European tour, he could be a real threat going into stage 2. We've also got Davey Preston, who defeated Franz Rausch in the final game. Franz Rausch, a very underwhelming display. He didn't average big averages today. He won a game with a 61 average yesterday. A player that many people have tipped to do well, including myself. Not having the best of time, but did make the quarterfinals, so you'd like to think his chances of coming through on the order of merit are relatively high now, with a couple, maybe 3 wins tomorrow under his belt. Boris Koltsov, we've seen him on the Pro Tour before, we've seen him in the World Championships and in a pairs event in the World Cup with the likes of Alexander Oreshkin. A good day for him, only had to play the 4 games, but Jeffrey Dezeu, Sven Fielder, Stefan Tafner, all defeated in very convincing fashion, dropping just 5 legs in those 3 games. And then coming up trumps in the final game, despite a 92 average from his opponent. Boris Koltsov as a player you expect to get through. He's a class individual, a very, very heavy scorer at times, where sometimes the doubles do let him down, but getting through to stage 2, and he'll be one of those players that is a huge threat in that stage 2, along with the names obviously coming in from the challenge development and the previous tour card holders. So they're the names that have made it through officially in the quarter-final stages. The name that I'm sure you'll all be here to have a quick look at is Raymond Van Barneveld. It was a very, very good day for Raymond Van Barneveld. He was possibly the best player on the day. Just looking at the averages, obviously kept an eye on his games on the social media channels at Tungsten Tales on Twitter, and he was very, very convincing. You've got to say, he was in a very tough game early on against Nico Springer. That was sort of punch for punch early on. It went to 3-2, and then he broke away really, and a 92.5 average, which in Q School is enough to see you over the line. 100 average in his second round game. Haven't seen too many 100 averages in Q School overall, but Van Barneveld getting one on the board there. He then defeated one of the favourites to get a tour card in the whole event, Nico Kurtz, a player that's got some terrific scalps on his resume in the likes of the German Masters, in the World Championship of course as well. Nico Kurtz, a fantastic player, and a player that I would expect to get a tour card this year, as will many other people. And then a 101.2 average. I think that might be the highest of the day, to see off Jeffrey Van Egdom in the last 16. And he really, really was good there. I mean, there was absolutely no chance for Van Egdom, who averaged 92.6 himself. And then the lowest average of the day for Van Barneveld, an 89.4 in the final game against Michael Rastovitz. Means he doesn't confirm his place in stage 2 through getting into the final 4 players, but with a last 16 yesterday and a final 8 today, I'm not sure I can officially confirm it, but it would be very, very difficult for so many names to catch him with just one event left to play. So Raymond Van Barneveld into stage 2, along with Michael Rastovitz, Lucas Weinig and Davey Preston, and the names we mentioned earlier on coming from the UK school. We'll be back on Tungsten Tales to cover day 3 of the first stage of Q School. Of course, we've got more players coming up in the 3 days following that before we go into stage 2, where tour cards will be decided, but all looking good for Raymond Van Barneveld, and we'll have more covered here tomorrow on Tungsten Tales.